Hello, everyone. My name is Pianpian. I'm the founder and CEO of Amotions. Amotions is a platform to help you and your team be more effective, build great relationships, and master soft skills such as leadership skills, emotional intelligence, and more. Today, we are very happy to have Joy Koo here. Joy Koo is an exceptional executive and leadership coach. She has been coaching full time for almost a decade, and she has been working with global leaders from different tech and other organizations. And we're very happy to have Joy here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Pianpian. I'm so honored to be here and thrilled to share.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Would you like to add anything to your self-introduction?
Well, I'll just add that I love nature and I bring that into my coaching conversations wherever possible.
That's wonderful. Great. I love nature
Yeah.
too. Thank you. Joy, I think we talk about that one topic you have seen your leaders and customers that you're working with that are solving is managing changes, especially during the pandemic. There are different kind of things that we need to handle. Becoming remote work, now becoming back to hybrid work or in-person work, and childcare responsibilities and health and all kinds of issues. What are the suggestions that you have for people to handle changes?
Yeah, thanks for that powerful question. I just want to name that COVID has had such a big impact, on the world and on us as human beings.
Mhm.
We've had to adapt quite a bit, and it's been very disruptive, on so many levels. So, surveys have shown an increase in the number of adults and children who report symptoms of stress, anxiety, depression,
Mhm.
insomnia, so on and so forth, right? So, I'd say some suggestions are self care is number one. Can't overemphasize that. And really just asking for what you need. What is it that you need at this time? I want to call out William Bridges' work on managing transitions as well. I found that his suggestions on managing transitions can be quite helpful. So he talks about how transitions and changes are in three different zones. One is endings, new beginnings, and in between endings and new beginnings, you have the neutral zone. And I sense that we going through this pandemic right now, we're in this neutral zone, right? Of not quite knowing when the new beginning is going to start. And, so there's all this fogginess about this time, and that can create a lot of anxiety for us human beings. So six tips to get through this is: one is to limit other big changes in your life. Two is to allow this emotional experience to unfold. Really just acknowledge, what is it that you're feeling right now?
Mhm.
Three is to get creative and do something fun for yourself. This is like a really heavy time. So, how can you have a little fun? And fourthly, get some short-term goals so that you can feel anchored. Fifthly, shift your mindset to one that values this in-between space. And lastly, readjust your expectations about the level of productivity. So that is
Mhm.
the six. And I also, I just want to say, be kind to yourself along the way. We don't have to do everything. And with all these changes, there's some things that we still don't have enough information on.
Mhm.
So, how can we take good care of ourselves along the way of sitting with this uncertainty?
That's very helpful to hear the six takeaways that people can do um, in taking care of ourselves and like understanding and realizing the feelings, taking pause, I think it's very important. I like the
Yeah.
idea of doing something creative and fun as well.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And the one of the takeaway you mentioned is limiting big changes. I think in some circumstances we can do that personally, like limiting some big changes, like not to suddenly move somewhere or buy a house, that kind of
Mhm.
thing we can handle and control.
Mhm.
But there are things that we cannot control in our lives. For example,
Yes.
if there's a change in like overall company leadership or strategy, what kind of steps do you suggest for individuals or team members to take so that they can manage these changes while continue to deliver results and innovation
Mm.
and not get burnout as well?
Yes. Well, that brings to light, what is it that you can control, right? Like
Mhm,
Stephen Covey's leadership theory on the circles, the three different circles
mm,
in which, there's a circle of concern, right? Like, oh, there's a war going on, or oh, this is going to change that you can't do anything about. And
right,
then there's the circle of influence. What is it that you can help influence? And then there's a circle of control in which like you can only control. So be mindful of like, okay, what is it that I can really do about this situation? Excuse me. And the things that we can do, are to take care of yourself, like to
mm,
breathe and to just know that, okay, I can self-regulate. So that's one thing. Um, and I just want to call out that we are living in this world of what you call VUCA, VUCA, right?
mm,
And that's a leadership theory by Warren Benison and Bert Nanas. And V stands for volatile, U for uncertainty, C for complex, and A for ambiguity. So this is the world that we live in.
mm.
And, the pandemic has just added a whole nother layer of, VUCA on with the existing VUCA, in my opinion. Um, Yeah, the statistics are in terms of um, you know all the stress and the impact it has is people are getting burnout. No doubt about it. And 75% of workers have experienced burnout, with 40% saying that they are experiencing burnout specifically during the pandemic.
Mm,
67% of all workers believe burnout has worsened over the course of the pandemic,
mhm,
and 36% of employees say that their organization isn't doing anything to help with
mm.
this burnout.
Yeah.
So,
And okay. Yeah, I think it's a very good point in terms of knowing that there are things that we can control and regulate ourselves
yeah.
um, and kind of help with coping with some of these. Um, what other resources do you recommend for leaders or for teams to look into if they're like trying to figure out how to handle changes like organizational structure change, high growth teams, um, and and yeah, like resources for particular common challenges that you see.
Yeah, that is a great question. One is to build on your culture,
Mm,
build on the values, and don't forget that human beings are part of your team. So really having a honest conversation about what's working and what's not,
mm,
getting feedback along the way, not just keep going, going, going and forget about people, because without people, you don't have a team.
right.
And do the necessary work to prepare yourself and your organization for the journey.
Mm,
Ask yourself why. What is the North Star? What is it that guides you in your day to day?
Mhm.
um, and communicate and over communicate. Because in these times where you're going so fast, people can't possibly keep up with what's in your head, right?
Mhm.
If you don't, that's what I've seen anyway in a lot of high growth companies. And I had the opportunity to coach a high growth startup last year, and both the CEO, the CTO were completely burned out.
Mm.
They had a vision, and people were frankly, because of the pandemic, because of how quickly they were growing, they were exhausted.
Mm.
And so everybody was exhausted, but there was just this drive to keep going. And as a result of not listening to people, they had a big attrition rate.
Mm.
People started leaving, and then that's what caught their attention. Then they started to get feedback, wanting to hear what people really had to say.
Mhm.
And it was not easy feedback. So, you know, that's a big price to pay when your people leave. So I would say, really just pause and listen
Mhm.
and build on the culture and see what are your values as an organization? Are you embodying those values?